6 failed skyscraper projects that went under the rug. With the success of the World Empire Building and Burj Khalifa as the world's tallest buildings, it didn't take long for other countries and companies to follow suit. But these overambitious groups of investors, city planners, and architects soon realized that building a skyscraper is no walk in the park. Whether it's a global financial crisis or a showdown with city councils, here's a look at 6 failed skyscraper projects that went under the rug. Number 1. Golden Finance 117, China. Back in 2008, China made an attempt to build the 5th tallest skyscraper in the world with Golden Finance 117. The skyscraper was going to be the centerpiece of Golden Metropolitan, a 1.8-kilometer paradise project by billionaire Pen Sutong for the elite. Surrounded by Italian and French-style manors, extensive gardens, and a wine museum, the 3-story diamond-shaped atrium was set to attract one hell of a crowd. According to plans, the skyscraper was meant to house the world's highest observation deck, restaurant, sky bar, and swimming pool. The building would have been second to the Burj Khalifa with its 128 floors once completed. When construction kicked off, everything was going smoothly. The structure was solid, and the plans looked good on paper. So, where did it go wrong? It all started when Golden Properties, the Hong Kong company behind the project, had to self-finance the entire $10 billion plan since they couldn't get investors until the authorities signed off on the project as per Chinese property market rules. Still, many were positive that as long as the company had capital in the bank, they could pull it off, and so construction began on 18 August 2008. But when the global financial crisis hit, construction stopped in January 2010. Surprisingly, Pat was able to bounce back from this hit as construction resumed in 2011, but his luck ran out during the June 2015 crisis when Chinese stocks plummeted to the ground. The billionaire businessman lost $13 billion this time. The project went all downhill from there. Construction was never completed, and it seems like this glorious skyscraper could never attract any investors, because the rich didn't seem interested in a skeleton located on the outskirts of one of China's second-tier cities. The 597 Tower remains a center of ghost stories and a reminder of how unpredictable the market can get to this day. Number 2. NAKHEEL Tower, Dubai. Back in 2003, when the plans for Burj Khalifa were proposed, another project was also in the works. A real estate company by the name of NAKHEEL Properties presented plans for the NAKHEEL Tower as the centerpiece of Palm Jumeirah in the same year. With a height of 1,000 meters and 120 floors, the NAKHEEL Tower was going to be the world's tallest building. Little did Dubai's city planners know, fate had other plans for them. It seemed like the cards were stacked against the NAKHEEL Tower from the very start. The project stopped at ground leveling and reclamation because it was situated at the Dubai waterfront near the Al Maktoum International Airport. The tower was relocated to a plot near Jumeirah Lake Towers and Dubai Marina to combat this issue. There, it would have been the center of the NAKHEEL Harbor and Tower Complex, a group of 20 smaller towers with 900 stories. It seemed like fate had different plans for this project as well. With the financial crisis in 2008, the project came to a permanent halt, as did many other projects in the region. It seems like NAKHEEL Properties never bounced back from that particular hiccup. They tried to negotiate some sort of deal with many potential contractors, including Japanese Shimizu Corporation and Australian Grocon. But as the abandoned husk of metal stands before us today, it's obvious those were not a success. Back then, the tower was to be named the Pinnacle, but it's safe to say that it was anything but that. Number 3. GROLLO Tower, Australia. Before the Melbourne Skydeck was adorning the skylines of the metropolitan city, another was supposed to stand in its place. The skyscraper was Bruno Grollo's dream, who was a big name in the Australian business world. His construction company came up with plans for the GROLLO Tower in the Docklands district. The tower was going to be 678 meters high with 113 stories. It was later scaled down to a more realistic 560 meters. According to the design, there would have been 11 subground levels for car parking along with retail facilities. A 500-seat auditorium was also in the works. The hole excavated for the car parking would have eventually been the largest in Melbourne history. In terms of design, the tower was supposed to house 30 levels of commercial space, 450 residential apartments, and a hotel spanning 20 levels. An enclosed observation deck, shops, and restaurants at the height of 450 meters would have made for a nice tourist attraction. Unfortunately, Dent and Corker's design plans never saw the light of day. Much of the blame could be placed on the Grocon family in charge of the project. Back in April 1999, Grocon failed to make a payment of $30 million to Docklands Authority. Not to mention the rising concerns of the city's residents about the 10-kilometer shadow that was about to change their lives. Still, the tower showed promise, as there were some rumors about including it in the Batsman Hill project in 2000, but that hope was snuffed out as the Docklands Authority ruled the tower out of contention for the Batsman's Hill developmental plans. For those of you who don't know, Batsman Hills was one of Melbourne's mixed-use precincts in April 2011. Docklands Authority made the decision because the tower would cover the entirety of the Batsman's Hill district. If that wasn't enough to mark the project's failure, the money problems later sure did the job. Number 4. 7 South Dearborn, Chicago. Back in 1999, Chicago had plans to erect the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere, but seeing how that title now rests with the One World Trade Center, it's safe to say that it didn't work out. The 112-story building was supposed to touch the sky at the height of 1,567 feet, leaving behind the Willis Tower by 116 feet. It would have also stolen the title for the world's tallest building from the Petronas Towers, which held the rank at 1,483 feet. Interestingly though, the architectural plans included fitting the towers with 2 antennas that would take the height to a total of 2,000 feet. The 40 floors were set to house 360 residential units, an office space spanning 675,000 square feet across 32 floors, and another 13 floors for communication. All in all, 7 South Dearborn looked good on paper, and the Chicago City Council didn't waste a second in approving it. But somehow, the fact that the tower would transform Chicago's central business district was not enough to bait investors. Scott Toberman, CEO of the European American Realty, who was leading the project, kept trying for months but couldn't get enough investors. With no light at the end of the tunnel, media companies funding the antennas backed out, and that was the nail in the coffin. European American Realty then went on to default on the payment of $22 million on the land, forcing the CEO to hand over the deed to Bank Worms Capital Corp. Later in 2000, rumors about breathing life into the abandoned project started making rounds in the industry. Judging by the activity on site, they didn't seem baseless. But much to everyone's disappointment, nothing became of the project until Heinz Interests Limited stepped in several years later. They didn't resume work on the original tower, but constructed another 571-foot building in its place. 1 South Dearborn completed construction in 2005. It stands as a reminder of how sometimes it's better to think small. Number 5. Dubai Creek Tower, Dubai. After tasting success with the Burj Khalifa, Dubai set out to break the record for the world's tallest building one more time. Plans for the Dubai Creek Tower were first announced in February 2016. The new centerpiece of the Dubai Creek was set to complete construction right before the 2020 World Expo. The global event would have made the perfect opening ceremony for the new tourist attraction. It would have also helped Dubai move away from oil as its major source of country capital. The skyscraper was going to tower at the height of 1,300 meters, dwarfing the Burj Khalifa, which stood at the height of 830 meters. However, soon after work on the foundation was underway, its construction stopped, and cancellation rumors started circling the project. Much of the blame goes to the $1 billion price tag. It's not unusual for buildings of such a size to cost this much. Construction for the Burj Khalifa was completed for $1.5 billion. However, with the Dubai Creek Tower, the usable space did not justify that price tag. At the height of 1,300 meters, the structure promised only 20 floors. It seems like the architects behind the plan were much more focused on putting another tourist attraction on the city's map than creating something worthwhile. Another reason for failure could be the growing competition. Saudi Arabia announced plans to construct the world's tallest skyscraper with a height of 1 kilometer, dethroning Dubai's long-standing Burj Khalifa. Of course, a win for Saudi Arabia could essentially put an end to Dubai's $30 billion capital generated from tourism. So it makes sense why the Jeddah Tower had Dubai officials scrambling. Much to their relief, the work on Jeddah Tower stopped in January 2018 as the country's anti-corruption purges put the primary funders for the project in jail. The construction for the Dubai Creek Tower followed suit and came to a halt as well. This was around the time when the tower had just completed its foundations. There has been no progress since 2018. An official call announced a hold on the project in 2020, but questions about when construction would resume were never answered. Many people believe that with the pandemic in full swing and with the global economy taking a turn for the worse, we might never see the Dubai Creek Tower in all its glory. Number 6. Burj Al Alam, Dubai. It seems like Dubai has a long list of failed towers. The Burj Al Alam was a 108-story building expected to take its place on the list of tallest buildings in the world. The hyperboloid tower was to be shaped like a flower at the height of 510 meters. It wasn't meant to dethrone the Burj Khalifa, but the unique crystal flower look was expected to bring in even more tourists. Out of the 108 floors, 74 were meant for office use, and 27 were reserved for serviced apartments. A 5-star hotel section was also a part of the building's plans. Still, the main attraction was going to be the 6-story crown that housed a Turkish bath and a sky garden among other club facilities. The groundbreaking ceremony had people celebrating the first day of construction on 12 November 2006. And, from the way things were moving forward, everything was set to complete in 2009. Unfortunately, the global crisis in 2008 got to the investors backing the project. They couldn't make the payment in time, which put an end to construction after the piling was laid out in 2009. They couldn't even get a contractor for the project, leaving it more or less abandoned. City officials forgot all about the pit in their backyard as it collected water and became no different than a drainage site. In May 2013, satellite images of the project showed that the site had been leveled. The official announcement of abandoning the project was made by the end of 2013. In the end, it seems like building a skyscraper isn't everyone's cup of tea. Still, would you like to see any of these projects completed? Let us know in the comment section down below. And make sure you like and subscribe to Super Rich Daily. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you get notified the moment another video comes out.